This is something that's really needed for a lot of women, especially because femicide is on the rise in the world. A lot of women experience language barriers in the legal process or cultural or psychological barriers to really tell their stories effectively. With the help of psychologists and relevant advisors, we can make the AI as effective as possible so that it's not just another technical tool. If you don't get your facts down in the right way and get all of the relevant facts out, that could really hurt you down the line in the litigation process. Case Canvas, which is an AI legal tech storytelling app and SaaS platform to really help, especially female victims of domestic and sexual abuse.
Welcome back to another episode of the Startup Passport by Econsulate. Today we're joined by founder of Case Canvas. Thank you very much for joining today.
Thank you for having me.
But amongst other things, you're also a journalist, a UN women delegate, and you have been named in the Forbes 30 under 30. Now you're an entrepreneur also. How do you introduce yourself when people ask?
If I'm in a startup setting, I introduce myself as the founder of Case Canvas, which is an AI legal tech storytelling app and SaaS platform to really help, especially female victims of domestic and sexual abuse, tell their stories and navigate the process as effectively and safely as possible from a survivor-centric perspective to really get the support that they need.
And how did you come up with Case Canvas originally?
So obviously, I'm a law student. I have a legal background. Especially during my master's program, we had entrepreneurship courses and legal justice and all of that. So I really came up with Case Canvas specifically during my legal studies. But obviously, I also have a background in women's empowerment, UN Women Delegate. That's something I've been doing for quite a while. So I really wanted to combine that with what I'm doing for my studies, which is also really focused on AI and technology. So when I had the opportunity to come up with a legal tech startup, I thought this would be a great opportunity to do something like this, to really advance gender equality for women. I eventually came up with this, had conversations with many different legal stakeholders in the industry. And this is something that's really needed for a lot of women, especially because femicide is on the rise in the world. 1 in 3 women in their lifetime will experience some form of sexual or domestic abuse. And also even in Rotterdam alone, every half an hour, there's a report of domestic violence. So it is a massive issue worldwide, but also on a national and local level.
And where exactly can your company help with that? Because you said you're also a storytelling. You're also helping with that, but then you have the legal aspect as well. So how do you connect both of the dots?
So aside from the issue of femicide and the fact that women really need support of the storytelling process, there are many different reasons because of that. Firstly, a lot of women experience language barriers in the legal process or cultural or psychological barriers to really tell their stories effectively. So with the help of key generative AI features, whether it's visual, audio, or any other features that we'll be developing in partnership with Psychology Institute that has worked with domestic abuse survivors before, that will really help them tell their stories effectively and log those facts that they really need to get down. But on the other hand, it's also a legal tech app, so it will really transform those facts into legally relevant documentation and reduce any administrative burdens that legal stakeholders may have, whether it's the police or law firms, lawyers. I've spoken to many different law firms and lawyers who could really use something like this, but also the police that has been looking for a product like this. In the Netherlands alone, there's a staff shortage of around 1,800 police officers. So there's a staff and time shortage, and this will really reduce that load for them as well.
So essentially, you're trying to help victims tell their stories in a way that they can be used, let's say, during those legal processes.
Indeed. So a lot of women have to or frequently do face-to-face meetings with police or make appointments. And because of the staff shortages, that's often very difficult to do as well. So this Case Canvas will really come into that phase where they can reduce those burdens and it can go through technology instead of the face-to-face conversations, which can also often be intimidating to a lot of victims, whether it's a female or a male victim. But especially those who are most vulnerable, so women in domestic and sexual abuse situations.
And you mentioned that you also use AI for that. AI has been very known and very widely used to make processes easier, to make research easier. So all of these facts-based processes. How is it going for you also in a case of talking about sensitive topics? Is that something that AI is it already at a point where you can also use it for sensitive topics, or is this where the more human side is still missing?
So AI is very helpful in this situation. It's a very advanced technology, but we're still in a very early stage. We have already developed a basic prototype, and we will be developing that further with professionals in the field of psychology and experts who know what will really be effective for survivors of sexual and domestic abuse. I'm still a student. Within 1 year, I've developed quite a lot, so there's only so far we can go with all of that, but we're still in development, and with the help of psychologists and relevant advisors, we can make the AI as effective as possible so that it's not just another technical tool, but something that will really be academically and psychologically validated with the relevant tools within, with the help of AI.
And obviously, you're not only doing that business from a business perspective, but for the bigger cause, let's say.
Yes.
What other stakeholders, what other people from the ecosystem, other organizations would you like to get involved as well to not only move forward with your company, but ideally with the bigger picture?
Yeah, so even during the early process of the research during my studies, we spoke to police officers, but also legal clinics, NGOs, lawyers, law firms, many different people that deal with survivors in a legal setting. This could be really helpful to them, also with social workers. What our goal is to also expand this, because there's a massive legal market and there are loads of criminal cases every year, but this could also be used in commercial settings of commercial law firms or insurance companies or anywhere where they have to deal with case facts or even sensitive case facts of clients. So we would like to help the most vulnerable first and then expand to other areas, whether it's a more commercial setting or other governmental or NGO settings.
But you are not facing any troubles with applying any of this, because you're technically not using your technology for, let's say, during those conversations, because everything is only for preparation, let's say, right? So you're not really interfering with the legal process itself, because there's only the preparation that you do to really support the victims in that case.
To really support them in the early stage, because if you don't get your facts down in the right way and get all of the relevant facts out, that could really hurt you down the line in the litigation process, where at the end they find out, well, you should have said this, or you should have said that fact, or it wasn't really clear to the lawyers or the legal clinics earlier on what exactly happened to someone. So that could really hurt a legal case down the line. So it's really impossible to get as much out as possible early on. And what we want to do is prevent re-traumatization, because that's a huge issue with when survivors and victims tell their case facts, that you have to tell that to many different stakeholders. So you call up the police and then they say, you explain your story, and then you would have to come in, explain it again, explain it to another lawyer. And that retelling process itself is very re-traumatizing. I don't know if you've ever made a report to the police yourself, but a lot of people experience a very non-user-friendly process where you're constantly reminded of your case facts and have to explain it over and over again. So we really want to document that early on with the relevant tools to have a very effective logbook with generative AI tools that can really remind people what the relevant facts are, or even explain certain legal terms that would be important for their case that will be recognized by AI. Some women don't realize that certain things constitute rape, and that rape within marriage, for example, is a possibility. Not everyone knows that it's possible and that they can report something like that. So with our legal tech tool, we would also remind people with relevant prompts and chatbots to really support victims in their storytelling.
And we'll be very interested to follow that in the future. Thank you very much for that. It's a very new business model. I think something like this hasn't been there yet. So thank you very much for telling us about it and for joining in the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.